We want to look at the military practice questions. So we start with question one of Cisa domain 3. The first question says resource leveling is used to A. Identify resources needed for IS projects. B. Allocate resources during IS projects. C. Minimize scope creep. D. Reduce resource requirements for IS projects. Now, resource leveling is used when we have scarce resources. Resources are limited, so we want to see how we can distribute or allocate the limited resources among the various work packages that we have in the project. So the answer is B, allocating resources during IS projects. Okay, it doesn't have anything to do with scope creep. And before you can use resource leveling, that means you have identified resources to be limited. So the best answer is B, allocate resources during IS projects. Question two, scope creep will most likely occur if A, business case was not developed before development. B, the project manager does not have sound knowledge of system testing. C, users are not extensively consulted. D, programs are not adequately debugged. Now, D, debugging has to do with error corrections in code. Uh, Business case has to do with the justification for that software development project. So the best answer is actually C. Scope creep means we are shifting the cost of requirements. So we are already in development. The programmers have started coding about to implement. The new requirements are coming up. So that can happen if users or stakeholders have not been adequately consulted. So the answer is C. Okay, question three, the most appropriate control to the threat of zero-day attack is A, user involvement in setting requirements. B, data owners being accountable for data security. C, detailed system testing before operations. D, user security awareness training. Now, zero-day attack is an attack that hackers launch against a newly released software. So they leave hidden vulnerabilities that even the developers may not be aware of and exploit it. So the best way to avoid or to prevent that is to do detailed system testing in the test environment before you move the application to the live environment. B looks good, but it's talking just about data security, and there's so many other issues at stake in software apart from data security. So what about vulnerabilities that can be exploited that can lead to denial of service and so on? Okay, so uh, user involvement setting requirements. Users most likely will not be involved in setting security requirements, technical, I mean, this time around, technical security requirements. Okay, so their own basically is maybe the features they want and the general controls. So detailed technical controls is IT and the IS auditors and IT controls that have to handle that. So the best answer here is C. Okay, four. The major concern for IS auditors about the use of Agile development methodology is A, user requirements may not be met. B, tracking of changes may be difficult. C, programmers may work in isolation. D, the test environment is not separated from production. Now, Agile development focuses on frequent changes, meeting users' requirements. So A is out. Okay, programmers work in pairs most of the time in agile development. Okay, and of course we still separate the test environment from the live environment. So leaving only B because of the frequency of changes, it's possible that the changes may be difficult to track. So the answer is B. So let's look at five. The major advantage of prototyping is A, early closing of development projects. B, improved application controls. C, stability of business requirements. D, need for extensive system testing is reduced. So in prototyping, the objective is let the first system appear. Let the system be ready as fast as possible. Then we can be upgrading later based on feedback. So the answer is definitely A. The answer is not B. Application controls may be weak if you are using prototyping. Okay, business requirements will not be stable because we are always updating, we are always changing requirements. Okay, and there's still need for extensive system testing. Okay, so if you are not doing extensive system testing, that is not an advantage, it's a disadvantage because that means that software is vulnerable to attacks. So the best answer here is A, early creation and development of projects. Uh, 6. Which of the following will be considered when using function point analysis, FPA? A. Number of inputs. B. Size of data processed. C. Programming language used. D. Detail of system testing. So what do we need when we want to do to use FPA? Number function point analysis is used for software size estimation. So we need the number uh, of inputs, we need outputs, we need number of files, okay? We need number of interfaces. So we need number of queries. Those are the 5 parameters that are needed in function point analysis. So the answer here is A. Only A is there. So question 6, the answer is A. Okay, 7. An IS auditor is having concerns that there is possibility of time overrun in an IT project. Which of the following would best confirm the possibility of time overrun? A. Resource leveling. B. Function point analysis. C. Program evaluation review technique. D. Critical path methodology. So there's possibility that we are having time wastages on the project. So how will you know that there's likely possibility of time overrun? As I've said before, resource leveling is basically used to allocate resources, scarce resources. The project FPA is used for software size estimation. Critical path methodology is used to determine the duration, the minimum time the project will take. So we have an idea, the minimum time. But program evaluation review technique goes a step ahead of critical path methodology. They do the same thing. They are used to determine the minimum time, minimum duration the project will take. That is the time on the critical path. Okay, so the advantage of PERT over critical path methodology is that PERT uses 3 time estimates, whereas critical path methodology uses only 1 time estimate. So the time uncertainty in PERT is more is less pronounced than we have in critical path methodology. So our best answer is actually C, because with PET, we can have an idea of the duration of the project. So if we look at the percentage of work that have been done, we'll be able to have an idea whether there's going to be a time overrun or not. So note that C and D will do the same thing, but C will give us a more reliable result. Okay, so we go for C. So question 8 to 10 will be answered with a scenario. Uh, a software development project has not achieved much progress in the first 2 weeks. One of the major factors was the resignation of the lead programmer. The newly assigned lead programmer is taking some time to reevaluate the size of the software to determine the workability of the project budget. Question 8. Which of the following can best be used to determine the impact of time lost on the possibility of delivering the project as scheduled? A. IT balance scorecard. B. End value analysis. C. Function point analysis. D. Key goal indicator, KGI. So how do we determine the impact of time lost? Okay. Remember in the scenario they told us that there are being a delay. Okay, for the first 2 weeks, they've not done much. How do we know the impact of that loss on the project? Okay, even the newly assigned lead programmer is still taking some time to do some reevaluation. So how do we know the impact of the time loss on the project? IT balance scorecard is performance measurement. It will not actually accurately tell us the impact of time loss. End value analysis is used to estimate whether we are having time overrun, or we are on, we're just there where we're supposed to be, or we are saving time. And it's also used for money also. The money spent on the project, are we wasting resources? Are we spending money exactly that is needed on the project? Are we saving money? Are we wasting money? So that is the emphasis of a value analysis. How much was spent? How much was earned by the project? How much time have we spent on the project? How much time out of the time spent was actually earned on the project? So we spent 2 weeks on the project. Okay, so maybe the project started February 1. We are now at February 14. So we spent 14 days. We spent 14 days. So how much of the 14 days have actually gone into the project? That is a question that end value analysis will be answered. Function point analysis is used for software size estimation. Key goal indicator is used to help us to know whether our strategy is working at the highest level. So the business direction, the business strategy, we have parameters to know whether the business strategy is working. That's where the key goal indicators will be flashing for us. So out of these four options, definitely your best answer is going to be B, health value analysis. So you know the impact of those weeks we have lost on the project, and we know definitely it's more likely we are going to have a time overrun because of the time we are wasting. Okay, so the B is the answer here. Question 9. Which of the following can best be used to estimate the size of the software? A. IT balance forecast, critical path methodology, C. Source line of code, D. End value analysis. Okay, I'll explain end value analysis is used to determine how well we are spending time, how well we are spending money in the project. Okay, so D is out. Critical path methodology is used for time estimation. Okay, duration of the project. So D is out. IT balance scorecard is used to basically appraise IT. So H is out. We need source line of code. So we can count the number of lines of code required in the software development, and we can project that to determine the size of the software. So your answer here is C. 10. Atomicity in distributed systems requires that A. Transactions are processed in isolation. B. A transaction takes a database from a consistent state to another. C. A system should survive a hardware or software crash. D. A transaction cannot be partially processed. Okay, so what's atomicity? Atomicity says that it's either you complete the transaction or the transaction is reversed. So you go to an ATM and you slot in your ATM card. The ATM debits you maybe 1,000 naira or $100, and you were debited, you were not paid. Now that is the transaction that was partially processed. It was not completely processed. If that system is working well, okay, atomicity requires that the debit must be reversed. Since you were not paid, the debit must be reversed out of your account virtually immediately. Okay, and in certain circumstances within 24 hours. Okay, so I've explained that. So you know definitely that the answer is D. Okay, atomicity means that the transaction cannot be partially processed. That is D. Question 11. The adequacy of application controls will most likely be determined by the A. Project manager, B. Asset owner, C. System development manager, D. Is system analyst. Now, the asset owner is the one in charge of the project, is the owner of the project. Okay, so he's the one that will be able to tell you whether the controls are sufficient or not. So the project manager is more like the chief operation officer running the project. So the best person to tell you that the controls of the system are adequate is the owner of that particular application. So the answer is B. Take note. Question 12. Testing for the maximum number of users that can concurrently sign on to an application is referred to as A, regression test, B, stress test, C, security test, D, alpha test. Okay, the regression testing is you want to test whether when you correct a change, correct a problem in the application, that correction does not lead to another error. That's regression testing. Okay, security testing is basically you want to test for vulnerabilities in the application that can be exploited. I talked about zero day attack. Okay, alpha test is alpha is the first alphabet of the Greek. The first letter of the Greek alphabet. So it's like A. Okay, so that is the first level of test that is done with internal users to run the application within the organization and have a feel of it so that you can get feedback from users. So that leaves only B for us, stress testing. So you want to make the maximum of number of users that can sign on at the same time on the application. And this is very important. I've seen practically in a live situation, two organizations that uh, were affected by this because the number of employees later outgrew the ability of the software to support. So that has to do with capacity management. So the answer here is B. 13. The average time required to complete an activity using PERT, program evaluation review technique, can be calculated using the formula A, optimistic time plus pessimistic time plus 4 times most likely divided by 6. Then B, optimistic time minus pessimistic time minus 4 times most likely divided by 3. C, optimistic time plus most likely time plus 4 times pessimistic time divided by 6. Then D, optimistic time plus most likely time minus 4 times pessimistic time divided by 6. Now, this is a project management question very relevant for Cisa examination, even though you might not see a question like this exactly in live Cisa exam, but I deliberately included it to reinforce your knowledge in project management. Okay, so when we are using PERT, we use three time estimates. Uh, to reduce the uncertainties in time estimation. So optimistic time, the time that is most likely that best case scenario we should finish. Pessimistic time, worst case scenario we should finish the activity. Then the most likely time we finish. So the answer is actually A, right? So you add the optimistic time to the pessimistic time. So optimistic time can be, let's say, we finish in 2 months. Pessimistic time, we finish in 7 months. Most likely time, we finish in 4 months. So you can slot in those number of months and using the formula, and you get the average time it will take to finish the activity. So the answer here is A. Okay. 14. Which of the following is primarily concerned with application control in database management systems? Limit check. A. B. Encryption. C. Referential integrity. D. Hash tokens. So which of these controls is just unique to database management system? Limit check, you want to know the maximum number amounts that the system can process. So that can be found in any system, whether database or application. So that encryption is used to provide confidentiality, relevant for database, relevant for servers, relevant for application. So hash total is used also for as a form of check and processing. So they call it nonsense total. For example, you want to do conversion of during migration. So you have a million accounts in the old system, and you can use that 1 million as a reference. So that after the conversion, you can check how many accounts do we have in the new system. Is it more than 1 million? Is it less than 1 million? So it's a form of control. If it's less than 1 million or more than 1 million, no, there's a problem. So because there's a reference number, that is what Africa is. So, of course, that is also relevant in so many circumstances in IT. So that leaves us C, referential integrity. Connection between the primary key and the foreign key. Every foreign key should be referenced to the primary key. Anything changes on the primary key, and wherever the foreign key is found on any table, that update should cascade down. Okay, so that is operational integrity. So it is unique to database management systems. So the answer here is C. The best answer here is C. Okay, 15. Which of the following will result in the most reliable cost estimate for the system development project? A. Analogous estimation. B. Bottom-up estimation. C. Function point analysis. D. Program evaluation repeated. This is also a project management question. Analogous estimation is used to when you want to have a software development project or any project at all. You can go and ask and investigate if it has been done somewhere else before, maybe within the organization or outside the organization. Then look at the price that was used, the total cost. Yeah, from that, you can now project on how much this current project will cost. So you are comparing with existing or past projects. So that is it. Okay, bottom-up estimation is where you break the entire project down into work packages using work breakdown structure for WBS. So with the work breakdown structure, you can break the project into sub-units or work packages. So you cannot cost each of the subunits or work packages one by one. So it's possible the project will have 100 work packages. You cost each of the work packages one by one. Very laborious, but it will give you a very, very accurate cost estimate. So I think I've answered it. Okay. Function point analysis is used for software size estimation. So what about other associated costs apart from software size, cost of the programmers, cost of systems that are going to be used, okay, and so on and so forth. So function point analysis is out. Text is going to give you the duration of the project to give you an idea of the duration of the software development. So the best answer for us is B. Please take note. 16. Which of the following controls will most likely require human intervention? A. Check digit. B. Key verification. C. Completeness check. D. Table lookups. Now, this question, check digit is used to uh, locate transposition and transposition errors. So you want to type 67, you type 76, then the check digit will change and the system will flag it. That made an error in your typing. So the check digit, for example, the last number on your account number, the last number on your account number is a reference number based on the sequence, the way the digits of the account number follow themselves. So if you change the order, you make a mistake, you want to type 76, type 67, the system will notice that the order has changed because the check digit is not correct. So the system is the one that does that. It is too complex. The algorithm used in check digit calculation is beyond what human beings can actually process. So A is definitely out. Okay, key verification means the maker will key in the figures or the data into the system, then the checker will also key in the same information using the source document. So if the both of them key in the same thing, the system will take it. If there is a difference, A type 30,000, then the checker type maybe 200,000, and there's a difference, system will flag it. There is no matching. Completeness check, the system runs through what you are typing to determine whether you are filling all the necessary information. So on a web page, you will see some field is asterisk. So if you don't fill it, if you leave it blank, system will flag it when you try to submit. So you can see that does not require human intervention. Table lookup. So you can have states in Nigeria and mapped to figures, one, two, three. States in America mapped to numbers, one, two, three. So if I type number one, system will go to the table and check which state is matched to one, which state is matched to two. So that is also does not require human intervention. The system does it at the background. So the only one actually that is virtually requiring human intervention there is B because the checker must be replaced. So the system does not just work on what the maker has put into the system. The system can only react after the checker, the second level check has been reposted. So there's a reposting when you are using key verification. So the best answer here is B. So this is a question that is basically testing your knowledge of these controls. Okay. 17. Which of the following would best ensure source code availability? A. Request for proposal. B. Right to audit clause. C. Software SQL agreement. D. Capability maturity model. Of course, the answer is C. You need to know it's very crucial for the system examination. Okay, so software SQL. A is buying software from B. Then both of them will agree with C. Keep a copy of the source code for us so that in case B goes out of business, we always have A will always have access to the copies of the source code. So that's what we mean by software expert agreement. So the answer here is C. 18. Number of client sites using a software is often included in the request for proposal, primarily to determine the software's A. Security, B. Acceptability, C. Scalability, D. Durability. Of course, we are interested in the number of people, the number of users, number of companies using the software already to determine whether it is acceptable to the general population or not. So the answer here is B. Acceptability. 19. Which of the following is a role of the IS auditor in software acquisition? A. Approval of the business case. B. Review of the vendor contract before it is signed. C. Shortlisting the final vendors after the proof of concept. D. Managing the relationship between the vendor and the client. Of course, approval of the business case is the board's responsibility. Shortlisting final vendors, of course, the IIS auditors cannot be involved in that. The IIS auditors cannot manage the relationship between the vendor and the client. That leaves only B for us. So before the vendor contract is signed, the IIS auditor can review to ensure that all necessary clauses have been included. 20. Which of the following is a major challenge with bottom-up estimation technique? A. It is time consuming. B. The output is unreliable. C. It is difficult to understand. D. It is not applicable to software development. All right, I've explained bottom-up estimation before, and I said it means that you are going to use work program structure to break the project into subunits or subprojects called work packages. Then you cost each of the work package one by one, then you can add up the total sum. Of course, that is going to be time consuming, but the output, the cost estimate is very, very, very reliable because of the level, the granular level of work that is done. So the answer here is A, which is time consuming.